Many individuals that are on the path to becoming more spiritually dynamic confront a shift that requires them to progress and expand their understanding of how they go about attaining and growing. That the way they have learned in the past was helpful for their past journey, but that there's a new paradigm at play once you actively become a participant in your own growth and expansion as a spiritually dynamic individual. We refer to two different processes at play. There is the worldly linear approach and the ethereal interdimensional or quantum approach. It's called quantum in modern society. And I want to explain the nuances of each. Within a linear progression of growth, you are talking about passing and expanding in a linear serial fashion. So I do step 1, and then I do step 2, and then I grow to step 3, and then I go to step 4. You cannot enter step 5 before you complete this series of 1, 2, 3, and 4. There is no skipping and learning from step 6 before you master step 4. And in that way, we call it a linear progression. It goes in a straight line. It is a serial progression. It goes one step after the other, after the other. I want you to think for a moment about a music, beautiful melody. When we play music, it doesn't work in a linear serial fashion, because doesn't bring an ecstatic sense to one's inner world and senses, but that chords progress to higher points and peaks, and then they go to lower points, and then they coalesce in the middle, and then they expand, and then they harmonize. That's a very helpful analogy for understanding how one expands and grows in an interdimensional progression, in a quantum progression, which the ancients called the short path, the path of intimacy. Now, a helpful analogy in our time of this is as following. Today, everyone in the Western world is pretty familiar with computers and file transfers. Well, years ago, when you transfer a file, it always worked that the bits of the file worked in a certain order. And if you're transferring the file and you get stuck in a particular segment, that the entire file will stall in its progression until you acquire that next piece within the serial progression to complete the upload or download of that file. Later on, individuals created technology to divide a file into many bits. And they call it a torrent. And in this format, the file is being downloaded or uploaded simultaneously in a non-linear order. So the file could simultaneously be uploading or downloading the end while it's downloading the beginning. And whatever part of the file takes longer, the rest of the file is not bottlenecked waiting for that part to be uploaded or downloaded. But the rest of the file is all completed, and when that final bit, that missing bit, is finally ready, then the file will succinctly be complete. And it didn't stall or bottleneck the rest of the progression. Many individuals on a linear spiritual path of development, they say, I aspire to grow in grace, but grace is beyond me before I master forgiveness. They say, I aspire to grow in my love, but love, true love, is beyond me until I restore trust. And what I wish to impart is that within the spiritual arena, it is not a linear progression, because there are so many nuances at play that are all riffing, harmonizing off your present now. And there are layers and layers and layers of processes, like an onion. And these layers are in constant flux, shifting based on the music of your present now. And within a spiritually dynamic path, you engage in a non-linear ascension, in a non-linear expansion, called the short path, the path of intimacy. And in that space, an individual can access step 7 when they are stalled by part 3. And by acquiring step 7, it will facilitate an expansion and appreciation of part 3 that you would never have acquired in a linear fashion in that amount of time. An individual should never stop in their progression and their learning. And the individual should not get stuck in a linear path and get cued and bottlenecked and say, I'm still working through my issues with forgiveness. I am still working through my issues of needing to control. I'm still working. No. If you cannot acquire a part, work on the rest of the progression. So the momentum of the rest of the progression will expand your soul to help you embrace the prior step. And that is the way of interdimensional progression. That is the way of the short path in intimacy. At all times, the individual is free to explore unconditional love, higher love. That is the highest cadence on the spiritual progression. And through delving and exploring and acquiring and knowing that frequency, they can unlock the keys to all the previous gates of perception in a non-linear progression. It's not about how hard you worked. It's not about how worthy you are. It is about how ready you are. For in spirituality, we do not attain things by acquiring them. We attain things by expanding to them. And to the degree that you're prepared to expand is the degree that you have the vessel to stream, contain, and share and impart.